What is up, guys? And oh my gosh, I don't even know how to start with today's video because let's just be absolutely honest, and I say this with all due respect. I really love the Xbox brand, but why in the blue hell do situations like this always have to occur? I mean, it's insane that stuff like this just happens. And of course, what am I talking about? I mean, you would have to be living under a rock at the bottom of the ocean to not know that one of the biggest leaks in not Xbox's history, but gaming history has taken place recently on the internet. So let's just kind of start there real quick. This whole situation came about because the FTC wanted to take Microsoft to federal court, and they wanted to have all these discussions. And of course, they had to have evidence and all this other stuff during these proceedings. And as part of record keeping, Microsoft was supposed to upload both a public version and a non-public version to the court's websites. And somehow the non-public version got uploaded to the public website by Microsoft. This was not the FTC's fault. This wasn't some planned thing that like people are trying to say like Xbox deliberately did this. No, this was just a blatant accident. It sucks. It happened. I mean, these documents leaked everything. Like, I mean, I have been surfing through them. I've been enjoying reading them. I mean, there's a lot of them. It took me hours to compile a lot of them. And let's just kind of dig into the fact that this was like it was evidence. I mean, a number of these articles have evidence stamps on them, and even they're serial numbered as what part of the evidence that they follow. And these were everything from email transcripts from like Sarah Bond to Phil Spencer, and Phil Spencer to Matt Booty and the rest of the team about dealings with building Game Pass, buying games for Game Pass, and also acquiring other companies, and just the direction of the Xbox brand, not only for Game Pass, but also the direction for hardware. We're seeing Microsoft deciding to completely revamp the controller. They are also going to have like a mid-gen refresh that could take place as early as sometime next year before the holiday season. And they are potentially going to take a different approach to this hardware. We might see ARM chips put inside the newer hardware. Now, what makes that a big deal is technically these ARM chips are more associated with mobile gaming than they are actual computer gaming, like PC gaming, which does have some questions on how optimization is going to work from the console version of a game to a PC version of a game. So there's definitely a lot of questions there. But the hardware roadmap doesn't end there. It looks like Microsoft is wanting to do more in cloud. They're wanting to even have another handheld and revamping the controller to be more compatible with cloud. It looks like Microsoft has a lot of ambitions and direction when it comes to the furtherment of the Xbox hardware. But the roadmap for hardware wasn't the only roadmap that was leaked out. We also got to see Bethesda's roadmap, and it goes all the way back to before Microsoft acquired Bethesda. It was really interesting to see their plans of kind of how their dealings were going to be, just kind of acting autonomously as they were before the acquisition. They were supposed to have a PlayStation 5 version of Starfield in the works. The game was supposed to make $900 million in revenue, but Microsoft obviously acquired them and plans changed. But also plans really changed because of the pandemic. If you get to look at this roadmap from Bethesda, they had big plans and timelines that they were wanting to stick to, and the pandemic completely screwed that up for them. But it also wasn't just the timeline of the events for Bethesda, it was also what they had in the works. We're looking at different games, like they talked about a different Doom game. They were talking about Dishonored 3. Obviously, Indiana Jones was mentioned in that, but there was also an unspoken IP that really nobody knows exactly what it is. But it definitely shows that Bethesda was working on a lot even before Microsoft acquired them. And to make it even more funnier for me is from Bethesda alone, it looks like there's going to be more first-party IP announced through Bethesda than PlayStation has announced at all this year for a while. I mean, PlayStation's been stoically silent, but it appears that Bethesda has a lot of rounds loaded in the chamber, just ready to start taking shots. There's also some documentation in there about exclusives, like the big one that everybody is going to be talking about soon is it looks like Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive to the Xbox platform, even though Phil Spencer tried to allude to the FTC course that wasn't really the plan at the time. He was completely undecided on how it was going to go, but from the way it's looking, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive. Another talking point is Phil Spencer's opinion on what took place in 2022 with the offerings from their first-party lineup, which was lack thereof. Everybody has been upset that in 2022, Microsoft Xbox was not able to offer pretty much any games at all for 2022, and their first-party studio lineup was very lackluster. And even Phil Spencer had the same opinion. There's numerous emails in there where he's talking to the team, almost like giving them a pep talk saying, hey, this sucked, but let's definitely get all our ducks in a row so that way this doesn't happen again, and that we also definitely stay hardened on our release dates and definitely get in really kind of hammering out exactly giving out accurate release dates rather than prematurely just throwing a date out there to disappoint everybody. And yeah, definitely, I didn't feel like I wasn't lack thereof in games. I mean, there's always something to play on Xbox, but when it came to the first party offerings in 2022, even Phil Spencer himself said that this was definitely a miss for the Xbox brand. There was even some stuff in there about acquisitions and other companies that Microsoft was interested in, and there's one that is being completely taken out of context, and that was an email with Phil Spencer talking about Nintendo that everybody seems to think that Phil Spencer is just like getting ready to go knock on Nintendo's door. It was more of a conversation of like, hey, if the opportunity arose, Xbox, Microsoft is in a good position to definitely write a fat check for that company if it came up. But he also did say that they are in a very good position. They're sitting on a mountain of cash, and that situation is probably not going to come up. And everybody's trying to say he was just trying to get Nintendo. No, he wasn't. He was just saying how exciting it would be if he could. And that's like almost along the lines of saying, like, wouldn't it be great if aliens landed on Earth? Yes, it would be earth-shattering, historical, but we don't know if that's going to happen or not. So it's not like it's absolute fact. Going from Nintendo, there's even info on Sega in there and how the partnership was supposed to work a little bit between Xbox. Potentially, somehow Sega was kind of like, at least the rumor from all this information was looking into wanting to make another game console, and Xbox was supposed to help them do that. It wasn't for the United States. It was more like a game console for the Japanese market. And also that Yakuza Like a Dragon, the exclusivity kind of breakdown there was how the game was a next-gen console exclusive over here, but over in a different region, that Xbox wasn't allowed to release it over there. It was extremely complicated, the whole inner workings that Microsoft had going on with Sega and some of the partnerships they have worked out with them. And some of the emails from all this information definitely highlight a little bit about how that partnership is working out for them and what kind of it all entailed. That's where I want to say, with all these leaks, all the stuff coming out, this is where Microsoft has a big advantage, in my opinion, the way I'm looking at it, because the cat's already out of the bag. There's no way that they can kind of reverse this situation. The only thing Microsoft can do at this point is take advantage of the situation by listening to social media, keep their ear on the market, and listen to what people have to say, especially about their newer hardware. There's even some complaints there that I have myself when it comes to the next-gen refresh. But as long as Microsoft definitely keeps their ears open, there is still time to pivot and also possibly make some changes. Some of this information is even really old, so some stuff has already possibly been changed. And also, let's face it, some of these presentations that we're looking at was meant for a room of people that couldn't even wrap their minds around the concept of DLC and exclusive skins and just exactly how the inner workings of the gaming industry really work. So, I mean, some of these presentations literally had thank you for participation slides in them. These were not your average run-of-the-mill stand in a boardroom and give everybody a breakdown meeting. This was literally like a lot of like flash and dash, song and show for the FTC trial. Now, that's where I do want to say that there is a lot of information here. So over the next few days, I'm going to release a few videos in succession, and we are going to break down as much information as I feel relevant. So that way, because everybody's been trying to have these like 2-3 hour long podcasts, 20-30 minute videos where they try to cram it all into one video. And I just feel that honestly, there's enough information here to really break down a lot for us to all kind of assimilate it and kind of get a feeling of exactly just how big Xbox is wanting to make the brand and just how aggressive Phil Spencer is in building the brand. And when I say aggressive, no, not Phil Spencer isn't out there giving Jim Ryan the middle finger and just totally trying to cut people down, but it definitely shows that Phil Spencer is an acquisition type of man, and that man, this man is not playing checkers. He is playing chess, and he does it with a cool, reserved demeanor. And this guy, he literally has a smile on his face, but definitely some thoughts in the back of his head on what I can do to be the biggest guy in the game at the end of the day. So definitely, please keep it locked in here on my channel. Please look out for those future videos that I plan to put out, which is going to break down all of this information. If you want to stay tuned for it and you enjoyed today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you feel about these leaks. What are you excited for if you've already been reading about some of the stuff? Also, please check out my channel here. Watch my last video. Explore the channel. Look at a couple playlists on the end card here. And as always, just remember to play the games you prefer on the console that you prefer, because the console war shenanigans are nothing but dogma. I am Centurion 1307, and thank you for watching.